welcome William.
My name is William, and I'm an addict.
Hey, William.
And this is kind of good, right? Because, I don't know, sometimes it's real comfortable when you have a meeting like this because it's real intimate, and because what it does is it'll give you an opportunity to not only to free yourself, but also it gives you an opportunity to help somebody on a personal level. First off, because there ain't a whole lot of eye contact I got to do, so I don't really got to look all over the place. You know what I mean? And that's real good. And when I looked at the topic, the therapeutic value, one thing I need to share is that first I need to thank God. I need to thank God for being 6 feet above ground with another opportunity to do what it takes so that when it comes time to go home for real, I'll be welcome there. And the next thing I need to do is I'm real grateful because for a long time, I've been given, as a result of how I've been living, a lot of drama topics. And what I got in touch with was, if you don't want to continue to get asked in order to talk about things that you think all it's doing is exposing the drama and the hell that you create, then you need to learn how to do some different things. And what I'm learning is that if I wanted to be respected, I had to learn how to be a respectable person and respectable individual in order to gain the respect of my peers, which is my home group, which is the people in my area, which are the people that I come in contact with when I leave this area, and most importantly, the people who I live with. And what I'm getting in touch with is that it's real easy to be loving and caring to people in these rooms because it's real generic, because you only got to deal with them for an hour and a half. And maybe an extra half hour or so when you got a business and group conscience meeting, and then it's acceptable behavior to act like a nut. You know, it seems to be acceptable behavior in that type of environment. And so what I'm getting in touch with, but it's more important that therapeutic value you talk about, or that individual, one human being being able to help another human being, not just the addict, that I need to take that behavior home. So what I did was, I looked at, and we read it every day, and it talks about, it says, we feel our approach to the disease of addiction is completely realistic, for the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. And what I got in touch with is that it's without parallel, because one thing is that one addict best understands another addict. And I got in touch with is that I'm a guy, look, my story started off, when I got clean, I went away to a rehab. So we can start with that. And when I showed up at that place, I walked in, they give you a nurse, you know what I mean? And the nurse sits there, they ask who you are and what's your problem. And when I got clean, what I got in touch with is that for me to walk in the door and say that I had a drug problem, that I was an addict, wasn't enough. And what I got in touch with is that when I got there, that they asked me, the woman asked me, she said, well, did you drink? And I said, well, yeah, I drank too. She said, well, maybe you are alcoholic too. So that's when I became the person I talk about in my story, the ander. Because I found out that when I got there, I was so lost and confused, and I was willing to accept any tag that you put on me. And when they told me that, well, if you got this problem and that problem, I said, well, I accept that. So I went into the door and I said, well, I know I got a problem with drugs, and since I drank too, I said, well, maybe I fall into that other category too, and I was willing to accept that. You know what I mean? And what I got in touch with later on was that this was just a person who had a job. And their job was to get you in, to get something on a piece of paper that they can accept you, that they can get the insurance company to pay for you, and that most of the insurance companies is not paying for addicts, they're paying for alcoholics. So that if you need to go into rehab and share that you're an alcoholic just to be accepted, then usually that's what we did. So I'm telling you, 5 years ago, they wasn't accepting addicts by themselves into them places. I'm telling you, that's what happened. So I accepted that. And being real confused, I thought that maybe that's who I was. And I didn't have an identity, so I found that from the first day I got clean, I started getting an identity based on what you gave me. And my identity came solely from who you told me who I was. And if you told me that I was somebody and that I had many problems, I accepted the many problems that you told me I had. And if you tell me that I had a problem with this, that, or the other thing, then I had a problem in that area based on your information, even though I couldn't identify with it. And what I'm in touch with today is that when we talk about the therapeutic value, one thing is real important that I'm getting in touch with is that when we get new NA babies in this fellowship, it's our responsibility, just like that brand new child that you get, everything that they know is something that we teach them. And that they really, I don't know about you, but I really don't learn a whole lot just based on what you're saying to me. I'm really learning a whole lot more by what you show me. So if you tell addicts that if you live this way and act this way that you're going to get pain, and then I come in the meeting and see you living and acting this way, I'm going to continue to do it whether you tell me I shouldn't do it or not. Because I grew up in a family that my mother said don't smoke, then she lit a cigarette up. She said don't get high, then she had a get high party. You know what I mean? So like, you know, I'm used to seeing people tell me to do one thing and then living another way. And the therapeutic value is that we gotta show by an example of how this program really works. It really don't matter what comes out of our mouth a lot of days, because if you can't align what's coming out your mouth with your actions, then like you're not going to be any help to anybody else. And you sure as hell ain't going to be any help for yourself. You know what I mean? So like I'm in touch with that, and so I got with that, and like I guess where my, not where my struggle's at, but where the most work comes in is learning how to apply the therapeutic value in the home front. And I'm doing a lot of homework. You know what I mean? I'm doing a lot of homework. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to learn how, like, you know, even after 5 years, I still have a problem going home and practicing unconditional love like I give it to you here. And it's really hard, you know what I mean? Because even after being in the fellowship for 5 years, I've earned some respect in the fellowship from people in the fellowship. And sometimes people will listen to you and they'll hear you because you who you are, because they've seen your struggles. But when you come in contact with somebody new in your life who really don't know who you are and where the hell you came from, all they know is they got an image of who they think you should be, and when you fall short of that image, then you got problems. And what I'm finding is that most of my problems, the reason I got a lot of problems at home is because the person I'm dealing with wasn't in my life when I was a newcomer. They wasn't in my life when I struggled through 1 year and 2 years. They didn't see a lot of the work that it took for me to get where I was at. All they can see is that no matter what you say, no matter how much you tell me how good you're living, that if you fall short, that is now the red check mark on who you are, and that's the identifier. And all they can see is that no matter all the good shit that I kicked to them in the beginning of the relationship about how I had finally grown to a point where I wasn't going to cheat on women, and I was going to be so positive and this positive role model in my community, not just in my home group and in the fellowship, all they heard was that. And what happened was they heard that, and when I fell short, all they could see was that you full of shit. You know what I mean? You really ain't about what you said you're about. You always sharing people about how you get tired of getting in relationships and getting promises and dreams, or what about the promise and dream that you made me? And what I got in touch with is when I met this person, I met a beautiful person. The only reason I'm in a relationship that I'm in still today is because I remember how it was. I remember that she was a beautiful person from the beginning. And because of that beautiful person that I met, the one that I took a risk on and started sharing all these things was, I got to get in touch with it. It was me. I'm responsible for chasing that beautiful person into seclusion. I'm the one that's responsible for taking that beautiful person and changing her or creating a monster. Now, I'm not saying, you know, for that she's a monster, but what I'm saying is that because of my behavior, I developed I got a response from her, and the response from her is a painful response. And the response from her that I got from her as a result of what I did causes me pain. And you can tell me, you know, you tell me like it's real important about, you know, reaching out and helping somebody else, but I'm learning that it's real hard to help the person you sleep with when they can't hear you. It's real hard to hear the person that you sleeping with when they really don't have a whole lot of the same type of respect that came from watching you grow, like the people that you have in the fellowship with you. It's real hard to gain that respect from the person that you're sleeping with, and it's real hard to even feel like you're anybody when you can't even, when you know in your heart that the person you sleep with can't hear you, you start feeling less than again, and you don't even want to come in meetings and raise your hand. Because you think that if I come in a meeting, if she can't even hear me, and she's not even impressed with what I'm doing, then what makes me think that the people in the fellowship are going to hear me? So what happens is I start separating myself from the fellowship. And I started doing things in this relationship by like kicking y'all to the curb just to prove to her that it was about her. I started doing stuff like getting me a new place, and I moved out of the city, and I got her in an area where she could make meetings and never have to deal with Camden. And like I started doing that kind of stuff, and what I found out was I started suffering because every time I push one of y'all out of my life, my point of freedom drops down. And every time that I kick somebody else out of my immediate circle, then what happens is I no longer have the variety of experiences that I need in order to get through days clean. And because of that, I find myself in a position where even when I come in a meeting and share about who I want to be and what I would like to do, that I find myself going home and acting out on the same exact behavior that I told you I wasn't going to do. And it's hard. I want to reach out to other people and say, like, how can I get through this? How can I start growing up and be this man that I want to be? How can I like stick and stay in this relationship that's still causing me pain sometimes? How can I like be secure about myself when I'm dealing with somebody who's living in insecurity because of my actions? How am I supposed to live with that? And some of you people, man, as much as you love me, some of you people who don't have experience will say, leave her. Some of you will say, you've been clean for a while, you don't deserve that, you ain't got to take that shit from nobody, William, you could just leave her. But I'm finding out that if I listen to that advice, just because it's advice, once again, I'm allowing somebody else to take care of me and make a decision for me that I'm not necessarily ready to make for myself. I'm still looking for you to make decisions for me. And because of that, I'm going to continue to leave that relationship in order to find myself in the same situation later with somebody new. So part of the therapeutic value that we're talking about is that first, once we got a statement, we'll tell you that we're going to love you until you learn to love yourself. But after we love you, and when you learn to love yourself through a process of steps, through a process of getting the guidance you need from your sponsor to be introduced to the God of our understanding that it talks about in the literature, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn to help the next person. We're going to we're going to do like we do when they get ready to have a big football game. We're going to let you come down a circle. We're going to smack you on your ass and say, go on your way. Because that's what we got to do. Because if we take a whole lot of time, carrying you all the way through your recovery, you'll never grow. Because as long as you don't take responsibility for what goes on in your life, you're never going to grow up. You're never going to be that big boy or big girl that you want to be. And you're going to continue to experience pain, unnecessary pain. And as a result of experiencing that unnecessary pain, you're going to suffer. And you're suffering, you'll want to blame people, places, and things for what's going on in your life. And the reality of it is our responsibility as individuals helping each other is to let you know that that was your fault sometimes. You did that. It's no longer about your woman and your man. They didn't do it. It's no longer about, your home group don't want to change the rules because you suggested it. It ain't about them. The reason that they don't respect you is because you're not doing anything to deserve it. You can't demand respect. That's some stuff that we talk about out there in the world. I'm going to demand respect. Nobody's going to disrespect me. If you don't give respect, you're not going to get it. So what I'm doing today, man, and what I've learned, and there's people in here in this room that have helped me with this, that have helped me to grow up. And what I'm learning is that it's real important that for the first time in my life, I stick and stay. That I'm learning that it's real important that for the first time in my life, I have the patience that it takes to wait for that beautiful girl that I met in the first place to come back. For the first time in my life, I've learned that it's important. And it's a little bit more than talking about being committed and living commitment. Talking to commitment is so generic, you can just say the words. You can put rings on their fingers. You can buy them all the little things and trinkets that you think it takes to buy them. But real commitment, man, is something that we live. Real commitment happens when I go home every night after I leave you in the meeting. Real commitment is when I come in the meeting and share that I'm going to stick and stay no matter what. Real commitment is going home and holding her all night and listening to whatever that she got to say to me and listening to her say all right, you just wanted to share your ass off, but it's your turn to wash the dishes now. And then washing the dishes. Real commitment is like when I go home, look, I pay the bills. I was taught as a child, the man paid the bills, come home, get a checkup, the bills is paid, and go do our thing. That's not what it's about. It's not about that. I'm a firm believer that if you go home and the rice is burnt, then you learn how to cook it. I'm a firm believer, man, that like if you ain't got the little fabric softener in your dryer, then you need to go buy it and wash the clothes sometime. Because it's not an identity. The identity crisis is like trying to fill the shoes of a man, but not knowing what they are. Not being able to identify them. I spent the first 2 years of my recovery trying to take my pants back from the person who I was living with in the end of the road. Somebody who, because of my irresponsibility, was the one that was handling all the bills, handling all the responsibilities. And because she was doing that, when I got clean, all of a sudden now I want to like dig deep and say, well, now I'm clean now. I'm ready to pay bills. And I'm telling you, for 2 years, I struggled trying to take my pants back from the person who I gave the responsibility to. You know what I mean? I'm learning, man, and the longer you stay here, man, you have to learn how to identify what is your disease and what is just the people, places, and things that's around you. They're not the same thing. Our disease is not a separate entity that goes on outside of us. Our disease happens between our two ears. Our disease happens when we get caught up in obsession and compulsion and think that we can fix what's going on around us and don't realize that we don't have a clue. And the responsibility, look, Rick shared it in the 7th step. They talked about that. So important is the 7th. The 2nd step talks about evidence, and the 2nd step evidence talks about that we have a need for a higher power. We have a need for some force that's greater than us. And the reality of it is, by the time you reach the 2nd step, you really don't have what it takes to have that pure, direct contact with your God yet. It'll kind of be like overdose. It'll be like too deep for you. So what he does is that he'll give you something. You learn, we teach you how to pray in 3, but you still don't know how to hear the answer yet. So how you hear answers in the 2nd step and 3rd step is you come in a meeting all jammed up and want to raise your hand and share about what's going on in your life. And the chairperson doesn't call on you first. He calls on, or she calls on someone else, and they share about what you was thinking. And all you can think to yourself is how amazing God is that somebody's talking about what you felt. That's all that you can see in the beginning. And you don't understand that that's God at work at his best. Because that's as pure as you can take it. That's as pure as you can see that the addict, that's why we talk about in the 2nd step that the power of greater yourself can be the group. That's why I said that it could be the group. Why is it a group? Because when you come in a meeting and share, you know what I mean? Then we want to stagnate how God uses the meeting, so we'll throw something in our format that says no cross sharing. Because we don't want people to get answers to what they just shared. You know what I mean? We think it's drunk for after you get done sharing. We don't believe that this person that sits at the table should be responding to everybody. Okay, so that's some structure. But the reality of it is if you share some drama and some pain, you might not be able to hear me. We might lead a meeting. You might not have the time to stop and talk to me. But I might understand what you're going through and have been there. And maybe you wasn't here, or maybe you just forgot. Maybe you don't know that I'm the phone number that you might need to call up at 3 o'clock in the morning crying. Maybe I'm the only one that's going to answer your phone call that night. Because I've been there, and I understand after staying here that usually when I go through stuff and I think it's all about me, that I don't understand it wasn't about me when I get the midnight phone call. And I realized that all the hell I went through was for that next person. We got a God that'll put us on point. We got a God that what he does is he'll push you out there when nobody else in your immediate circle has experienced that. Even no matter regardless of your clean time. Sometimes your sponsor never been there. Sometimes your sponsor personally don't know the one person that he can point out to you and say, go get help from him or her. And so what'll happen is God will put you out there first. He'll put you out there so you can be the light. You know what I mean? And the bottom line is it gets to be a painful piece to always be put on point. And what I got in touch with is that when you're recovering, and when you're working your ass off and recovering your ass off, what'll happen is the people that we look around us and seem like they always going through stuff, they're the ones that's recovering their ass off. You know why? Because every time that they deal with something, they're the ones that keep growing. They keep going through shit and growing. going through shit and growing. You laid back. You real content with the fact that ain't nothing going on in your life, but nothing new's happening either. But they working their ass off. Yeah, for you, Judge Wham been through a lot of stuff. Wham been recovering his ass off. How the hell you think that I continue to fall and keep getting up? How you think, look, only tour that I got as a newcomer, the best thing that I got in the beginning, they said, when you fall, just fall on your back. Because if you can see up, you can get up. So that's it. That's all I can give you. You brand new, I'm going to tell you that if you fall, you're going to fall. But fall that you can see up, so that you can see up, you'll be able to get up. Because you got to know that as long as you stick and stay, you're going to go through more hell in here clean than you ever experienced using. I don't know, like people share a whole lot about like, you know, how like when you, it was my worst day in recovery is better than my best day using. That's a nice ass cliche. It sounds good. Somebody kicked that shit, it probably sounded real good at their commitment. But the reality of it is, I have never experienced the pain that I've experienced clean. Check it out. Check this cliche out to combat that one. If you haven't done it clean, you haven't done it. That means if you haven't felt joy clean, you don't know what joy is. That means if you haven't experienced some pain clean, you don't know what pain is. Because believe me, when you experience pain clean, it's nowhere to hide. Look, we could talk about hiding out in a meeting, but you can't really hide in a meeting. Because if you don't raise your hand and talk about it, somebody else will. How about this? Until you get the time, until you get the courage it takes to come in the meeting and share about how sick and slimy you really are, if you don't, that person you trick with is going to get clean, come to the meeting and share on your ass. You ain't got to get ready yet. You can use that piece, I ain't ready yet, God ain't ready for me to change yet. Yeah, you got clean time and steps. So what do? He'll send somebody right in the meeting. You know, and you'll be sitting there and your gut will start turning. You won't know what's wrong with you. And you'll get the flashback. Oh, shit, that's the one. She the one I wasn't going to share about. That shit happened a long time ago. I hope she forgot. That's what you do. Come on now, I ain't the only one. And what happened? They'll raise their hand. You say, well, they still knew they ain't ready yet. They ain't gonna really share that shit. They still trying to be a part of it. And if I just act like I got it going on and show her how strong my immediate circle is, she better not share on me or I'll share on her ass right in the meat. Look, maybe I'm the only one that's gonna admit to that shit, but we think that. So what happens is something happens and we start watching that person grow. I told my sponsee, he was like, he had some people in his life and he started getting caught up in doing things. And I told him, he said, man, like I got a lust issue, man, and I understand that's a Band-Aid issue. I know that. You know what I mean? But like he's working his fourth step and he's writing on his fourth step. So I'm saving some stuff for the big hit. You know what I mean? So what happened was I told him, I said, you know what? I said, whatever you do when you interact with people in this fellowship, we talking about the therapeutic value, I said, you're going to become a part of their story and you have to decide whether it's going to be negative or positive. Because if when we interact and all you remember me is I'm that guy, either I'm going to be that guy that came after you or I'm going to be the one that gave you a break when you share your year clean. Who am I going to be? Am I going to be able to show up in your meeting? Am I going to be able to show up when you get at the table and start getting honest after you wrote a fourth step and start talking about the shit that you got going on right here in recovery? Am I going to be able to sit in a meeting with my head up with some integrity, the shit that I talk about, and sit there and say, thank God I gave her a break? I'm telling you, it's a lot of people in this area that I can't do that with. There's a lot of people in this area, man, who I struggle, man, because, look, I didn't come in here, I didn't come from the streets of player. But when I got here, kept the same car for a year, started brushing my damn teeth. First got the rotten one pulled, because even when I brushed my teeth, my breath stank. Somebody wrote a note to me. You know what I mean? Addicts love you. Went on a commitment, was going to do a commitment with me. We all in the car, man. You know, I got out the car to see if the meeting was ready yet. It was like we was early. I came back in the car and I got in the meeting. I went to like pull my bullets out there and they had stuck a little letter in there and they said like, we love you to death, man. And like, you need to go to the dentist. And that shit hurt for a minute. Because I knew somebody in the car that was with me that I was still going to give a ride home wrote this note. Let's get to the exact nature. I said, somebody, look, and we was long distance because I'm a traveling addict. I said, somebody is sitting in my car, smiling, hugging me, get ready to tell me I shared my ass off, but they're going to tell me I need to go to the dentist? Then I started checking them, trying to think, well, what can I think, maybe I should write you a note about, like, you need a hairdo. And you need to get some new clothes anyway. Stop wearing them 4-striped Adidas. You know what I mean? I want to think of stuff. And then something happened, man, just that fast. The same humility that it took to get behind the table at that commitment, something inside of me said, man, they just told you that because they love you. They love you enough to save your ass and not your face. They love you enough because they know they love you and they want you in their face and they want help from you, but like, damn it, they don't want to have to keep getting the help over the phone because they can't stand your fucking breath. That's real. That's right. You know what I mean? Because we're going to get the help anyway, but if we don't want to get in your face, we'll call you. So what William did, William went to the dentist. Therapeutic value stuff. I went to the dentist, man, and when the dentist started digging in my teeth, and he started digging, and I swear to God, man, and this is not exaggeration, when he dug into that one tooth that was rotten, it was like a tomb open. You could hear it. You could hear the air come out. You know what I mean? I had a nerve that was like rotted in there. And the doctor was like, ooh, can you smell that? And I was like, I could. Because he didn't numb my smell and my senses. You know what I mean? But what I was able to do, man, what it took, man, was the following night or 2 nights later, because it don't take long, man. The longer you stay here, man, when you realize after being here that we only give you stuff because we love you, and that it takes a whole lot of courage and a real friend to tell you the truth about you, it was that I was able to go in the meeting and thank them, and I still don't know who the individual was, but I know that in that meeting, all the people that were in my car were there. And I raised my hand, man, and I shared that for the group. I'm not ashamed of it today. And I said, thank you. I said, thank you, man, because I didn't know. I thought the mints worked. You know what I mean? You think certs work. They don't. You know what I mean? They temporary solution stuff. And we in a program of results, and the results we talking about is some long-term results, not some temporary solutions. So I got in touch with that. You know what I mean? And what I'm learning, man, and what people are coming to me now with, is they're saying like, William, I have never seen you at such peace. I have never seen you with such a peace of mind where like you got serenity that where you could sit in a meeting and not be concerned about what's going on around you. You're not screaming and hollering, you know what I mean? And that's not to say that I don't have the same enthusiasm that I've always had, because I do. But what I'm saying is that I got a peace of mind that no matter what goes on, I'm okay. And I really believe, in the eyes of God, I believe that just like we talked about before about the caterpillar and being in the cocoon, that I really think that what's going on now is that God is wombing another cocoon around me, and that he's preparing me so that when I come out, I'm going to be at another level of recovery, and I still don't know what to expect. I don't know, it's like I hear glimpses of it. I mean, I don't know if you ever can listen to yourself speak and listen to what comes out of your mouth and what's really going on with you. You know what I mean? And sometimes you can't even live your message till you listen to it a few months later, till you realize that you had a message that day and that it really wasn't you. And but I have an opportunity. I've been blessed to have opportunities to listen to me. And what I do is I hear little glimpses of this person that I think God wants me to be out there. I hear little pieces, just little pieces at a time, and he might give it to me in the course of a whole meeting. He might show it to me, man, and just like 2 spurts and say like, yeah, this is gonna be you, and this is gonna be you, and this is gonna be what I need, because like you're not gonna be, you're no good if you're half-ass effective because you allow your disease to rob you. So I got in touch with that, and like he's showing me slowly but surely like he wants me to be somebody, and all I have to do is continue to do what I'm doing, and I'm gonna be that person. And it's becoming real apparent to me that it really is important what you think about me. It really is important after doing some work and not living in defects like I used to, that it's real important for me to be able to show you that I'm no longer living that life. It's real important for me to be able to hug, hold and embrace the men and then hug the women and let them go. Important stuff. Because, and not to allow myself to get caught up into the wink from across the room. Or look, what we talked about in Burlington today, man, I understand today, man, that one thing that how to impress women, man, is just come and do a thorough four-step on a group. Because when we was out there using, women wasn't used to like hearing a man get gut level honest. So I said, well, shit, if I come to meeting and share my ass off on 4, they're gonna be like, that's a real man. He could cry. He could share about who he really is. I respect that and I want that. Then we go about the business of trying to see if we can make you do what you shared you wasn't gonna do. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, you sharing like, you know, you really living like that. Well, let me see. I know I've been tested. I've had people approach me right after I've shared that I wasn't going to cheat anymore. Wink at me, hold on me just a little too tight. You know what I mean? But I back off. One thing God's gave me is an ability to see it when it happens. Only because I'm not, see, I know one thing. I know one thing that's true in everything that goes on in your life, that if you take one, you'll have 3 or 4 before you know what happened. I know that. I know that is a I know that. So like, since I'm aware of that, I have to live with that. And the bottom line is I can act out and do something real slimy, just like real easy to go out and do something. But you got to pay the price for what you do. See, our job is just to tell you that whatever you do, you got to pay the consequences for whatever you do. If you do good things will come to you. You get sponsees, you share drama with them. When you fucked up, they're going to give you drama. But if you share positive, you know, affirmation type stuff with people, if you share with people how proud you are of them, how enthusiastic that they seem to be about their recovery, let them know that what they're doing seems to be working and to keep doing it, and let them know that like you're available for them. But not only are you available for them, but that if you ever need help, that there's somebody that you respect and will ask for help, you'll do it. You'll develop the support group around you of people who love you and respect you because they believe you respect them. And when you start developing that type of friendship, that stuff doesn't just die. That stuff doesn't go away when people start gossiping and talking about you, when you fall short. There'll be the people that'll be able to accept who you are no matter where you're at. There'll be the people that you'll realize you can't just keep forgetting when their anniversary is. You need to remember that stuff. More Be Revealed talks about that, about how like we're so self-centered that we forget about everybody but expect everybody to remember about us. You can't keep forgetting that it's your friend you call your best friend. His anniversary was yesterday. Did you know that? Hold up, how about this? Your mom's birthday is coming up. When the last time you bought her a gift? What are you waiting for in your 4th step? Why is it that you got a thorough 4th and 5th step, but you're not reaching out to your father? Because that's what I'm doing. I'm so fearful of just sitting down with my dad and telling him how I really feel. It's so easy for me to get caught up and share with you the anger that I feel towards him because he's not doing what I want him to do, but I need to just tell you that I love him and I want him there. But I can tell you that, and I have to come here and practice telling you that to reaffirm it in my head so I get the courage to go sit down with Dad one day. Maybe we'll go fishing or something. Maybe I need to go pick him up in my car and say, get in the car, let's go. And I need to sit there, man, and I'm afraid, man, because I know it's going to be emotional, and I never cried with my dad, and I'm kind of afraid of what's going to happen when I got my dad right there, and I'm telling him how I feel, and how I felt even slighted in some areas, but how I don't blame him now, and how I'm going to sit there and cry in front of my dad, and how he's going to respond. Because, see, I remember my dad telling me that when I went to the rehab, I remember him going all over, calling my grandmother, calling my mom, saying, I don't know where I went wrong. How'd he end up in a rehab? You know what I mean? I know he wants to be the best father that he can be. You know what I mean? And I don't need to blame him for the tools that he's got, even if I think that he may be lacking in them. Because that's my stuff. All I have to do is I have to learn, just like we tell you the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is that there's no bad meetings and there's no bad interactions in this fellowship, because when you show up here, you're going to learn 2 things in this fellowship, what to do and what not to do. And you're going to learn that from all the relationships that you develop right here in this fellowship. And that everything that we do, everybody we interact with is developing a relationship, because that's what this fellowship is about, relationships. And that you're not going to be any good to the person that you decide to live with or sleep with if you can't even call your sponsor. If you're not calling your sponsor and interacting with your sponsor, If you can't call out and reach out to your home group members when something's going on in your home group, then how do you expect to have a healthy relationship with somebody after you sleep with them when you know once we sleep with them, that's when the drama usually comes. So we have to learn how to develop relationships. And that first relationship happens when we walk in the door and somebody grabs onto us and holds onto us and say we don't have to live like we've been living, and like we can pull the knives and the spikes and the bow and arrows out your back because you're safe now. And that's what happens, man. You know, I'm feeling really good. I was actually, I've been feeling real good about what's going on in my life. I've been real grateful for all the things that God has given me, like the integrity, like the ability to be committed, like the ability to get honest, and look at some new stuff, the ability to share where I'm really at, even when my woman's sitting in a room. The ability to take the same woman who I fought with at a convention, you know what I mean, not too long ago, to be able to take her to the next convention in that area and be smiling. It feels good to come do a commitment, leaving love at home instead of leaving chaos, and having somebody that believes you just want to kick them to the curb so you can be slimy when you get to the convention. And like now, when I leave home, man, I know I leave in a loving and caring atmosphere at home. I know that when I go home after this, man, that I'm going to go home to somebody who I know loves me and who I love. And I know that just for the day that I'm not here representing, you know, everything and all you people, that I'm here representing the people who live in my house. And that it's real important that I act accordingly. That even though my woman's not standing right here beside me, I need to act as though she is. That's right. That's who I represent. And it took a lot to get there. But I'm there today. No matter what goes on there. You know what I mean? So look, I want to share, man, that I'm just real grateful that I had an opportunity at home to talk about how I am and where I'm living at and where I'm at in my recovery, because a lot of times we don't hear each other at home. A lot of times it seems like in order to get the unconditional love that we seeking, we have to go outside of home in order to get it. You know what I mean? It feels good to be able to do something right here at home. Not without a whole lot of hoopla, just some real, just gut honest, get real stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that like I was able to come in and give that to y'all today. I'm glad that just for the day I can present that to you and not somebody who lives in chaos and drama, because just for the day I know and I have distinguished between what's natural disasters and self-inflicted drama. And because I know that, I'm not suffering because I'm learning from the pain. And because I can learn from the pain, I'm continuing to grow. Don't judge me because it seems that I'm going through a lot. Just look at a guy that's working his ass off and is doing a whole lot about his recovery. Because I go through stuff, I grow through stuff. And because of that, I'm developing relationships that are meaningful and last. You know what I mean? And as a result of that, I'm getting better fucking topics too. It's important, man. When you start living crazy as hell and only people think about you is sharing clean and living dirty. When they only think that about you, man, it's an indicator to take a look at where you living. It's an indicator when people say, well, just come share transferring of sessions, and nobody wants to hear about more will be revealed. Nobody wants to hear about growing in the process. You know what I mean? All they want to hear is drama from you. Do a 4th and 5th step for us. Really do a 6th step, but share about the defects, because you ain't doing a lot of asset stuff. And for the finally get a chance to grow to a point where you can carry a meeting talking about just what's going on good in your life, and to have people sit in a meeting who've seen evidence of that growth, it's a great feeling. It's a feeling that you got to stick and stay here to get. But I tell you what, until you get there, bring the 6th slimy ass joker bring the worst person you can conjure up. Please bring that person to the meeting. Because when you bring that person to the meeting, you'll get the help that you need. But if you don't bring that person to the meeting, you're going to bring half-ass problems and get half-ass solutions. That's the hit. Thanks for letting me share.